Virgin African sold her virginity to an Arab executive for $9 million. But what he discovered left him shocked. A billionaire Arab executive thought he had everything: wealth, power, and control over his own destiny. But when he purchased the virginity of a young African woman for $9 million, he never expected what would come next. What started as a cold transaction soon spiraled into something far more dangerous, emotional, and life-changing. Stay with us until the shocking finale. This story will leave you breathless. Before we begin, make sure to subscribe to the channel, like this video, and turn on notifications so you never miss an unforgettable story like this. Zayd al-Rashid was a man who could buy anything. At just 37, he was one of the most powerful Arab executives in the world, a billionaire whose influence stretched from Dubai to New York, controlling a global empire of luxury resorts and private investments. Every door opened for him. Every deal was his to take. But this was different. This wasn't a business acquisition or a corporate merger. This was her. Amina Diallo was barely 21, a woman born into struggle. She came from a small, impoverished village in West Africa, where opportunities were as scarce as water in the desert. She had grown up with dreams bigger than the sky, but reality had been cruel. Desperation had brought her here, to a 5-star hotel in Los Angeles, sitting across from a man who had just paid $9 million for her first night. She had made a choice. But had she? Zayd observed her from across the candlelit table. She was stunning, a rare kind of beauty that even his wealth couldn't buy. Dark, smooth skin, large, cautious eyes, and an air of quiet strength. She wasn't trembling. She wasn't eager either. She was unreadable. To his right, his American business associate, Ethan Calloway, watched silently, swirling his whiskey. Ethan was in his early 40s, a hedge fund manager from Manhattan, ruthless, calculating, and always looking for an advantage. He had been the one to first introduce Zayd to this kind of arrangement. "I assume you understand the terms," Zayd said, his voice steady. Amina nodded. "No words." "I'll transfer the final payment after tonight," he continued, "after our arrangement is fulfilled." Still, she said nothing. Zayd was used to women falling over themselves for him, chasing him for his wealth, power, and name. But Amina, she was different, and it intrigued him. "You don't talk much, do you?" he mused, sipping his drink. Finally she spoke, softly but with an edge. "I talk when it matters." A smirk tugged at Zayd's lips. She had fire. He liked that. Across the table, Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. "She's got spirit. That's rare." Sitting beside Ethan was Charlotte Hayes, a sharp, blue-eyed journalist from Los Angeles, known for her relentless pursuit of high-profile scandals. She had been invited under the guise of networking, but Zayd suspected she was hunting for a bigger story. "You sure this is a good idea, Zayd?" Charlotte asked, her tone unreadable. "A $9 million deal? For one night?" Zayd's expression didn't change. "Some things are worth the price." Charlotte raised an eyebrow, but said nothing more. Zayd turned back to Amina and extended his hand. "Shall we?" Amina hesitated before slipping her fingers into his. Her grip was strong, but her palm was cold. They moved toward the lavish bedroom, the air thick with unspoken tension. But just as Zayd reached to close the door behind them, Amina's fingers tightened around his wrist. He turned to her, slightly amused, until he saw her face. It wasn't fear. It wasn't nervousness. It was something else entirely. Regret? Desperation? A warning? Wait, she whispered. Zaid raised an eyebrow. Change of heart? Amina took a slow breath and looked him dead in the eyes. Before this happens, there's something you need to know. A slow chill crawled up Zaid's spine. What was she about to say? Zaid al-Rashid studied Amina's face carefully. Her dark eyes held something he couldn't decipher, something deeper than fear or hesitation. He wasn't used to this. Women didn't hesitate around him. What is it? He asked, his voice calm but firm. Amina's grip on his wrist tightened. Her breathing was steady, but her pulse raced beneath her skin. I need to tell you something, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Zaid pulled his hand away slowly, crossing his arms. Then tell me. Amina hesitated, then glanced toward the door, toward the hallway where Ethan Calloway and Charlotte Hayes were still in the suite's lounge, sipping their drinks, waiting for the inevitable conclusion of the night. She swallowed hard. Not here. Zaid's patience was legendary in the boardroom, but in moments like this, he had none. Amina, if this is some kind of game, I don't play. Amina exhaled sharply, glancing at the luxurious bedroom behind him. Gold-trimmed furniture, a California king bed draped in silk sheets, a bottle of champagne chilling in an ice bucket. Everything about this moment screamed control, his control. But what she was about to say could shatter it. Amina took a step closer, lowering her voice. I wasn't supposed to be the one to meet you tonight. Zaid narrowed his eyes. What? The girl you paid for. She's dead. Silence. For the first time in years, Zaid felt something close to shock ripple through him. His mind instantly switched to logic. Dead? How? When? Why was Amina here instead? He studied her face again. If she was lying, she was a damn good actress. You expect me to believe that? He asked, keeping his tone even. Amina didn't flinch. I don't care what you believe. I'm telling you the truth. Zaid clenched his jaw. This wasn't right. Everything had been carefully arranged through private intermediaries. The $9 million was just a fraction of what he could afford. But it wasn't about the money. It was about exclusivity, control. There were protocols in place, safety measures. Mistakes didn't happen in deals like these. So why was Amina standing in front of him instead of the woman he was expecting? A dark thought crossed his mind. Was this a setup? A trap? Was someone watching them right now? He took a step back, his instincts sharpening. If that's true, why are you here? Amina's hands curled into fists. Because I took her place. Zaid inhaled slowly, forcing himself to remain composed. And why would you do that? Amina hesitated for just a second. Because I had no choice. Lies. There was always a choice. He moved toward the bar, pouring himself a drink. His mind was calculating, dissecting every angle. If this was a con, he needed to figure out the motive fast. I don't like riddles, Amina, he said, swirling the glass in his hand. Either tell me the whole truth, or walk out that door. Amina's lips parted, but before she could speak, a sudden crash erupted from the other room. Zaid tensed. Amina's face paled. Then came a voice, sharp, panicked. Charlotte. Zaid, get out here, now! Zaid's glass slipped from his fingers, shattering against the floor. Something was very, very wrong. Zaid rushed out of the bedroom, his heartbeat steady but his instincts on high alert. Years in business had trained him to handle high-stakes situations with an iron grip. But this was different. Charlotte stood frozen near the suite's entrance, her phone clutched tightly in her hands. Her blue eyes were wide with horror. Ethan Calloway was standing near the shattered whiskey glass on the floor, his usually composed face twisted in shock. Zaid's gaze followed theirs, and then he saw it. The walls, the mirror, the door, smeared in blood. His breath slowed, not in fear, but in calculation. 3 words were scrawled across the full-length mirror in dark, dripping red. She was mine. A deep silence settled over the room, the kind of silence that felt dangerous. Charlotte exhaled sharply and turned to Zaid. "Tell me this isn't some sick game." Ethan ran a hand through his hair. "Jesus Christ, what the hell is this?" Zaid didn't answer. He moved forward, pressing his fingers lightly against one of the smeared letters on the mirror. The blood was fresh, not dry, not old. Whoever had done this had been here recently. He turned to Amina, who had followed him out of the bedroom. Her skin had gone pale, her arms wrapped around herself like she was trying to keep from shaking. "Amina," he said slowly, "is this connected to what you were trying to tell me?" She didn't answer immediately. Then her lips parted. "I think we need to leave, right now." Charlotte shot her a sharp look. "Excuse me?" "I said we need to leave," Amina repeated, her voice gaining urgency. "This isn't over." Zaid studied her. She wasn't panicking. She wasn't breaking down. She knew something. Before he could press her for answers, Ethan let out a sharp curse and grabbed his phone. "I'm calling the police." Amina turned on him so fast it startled everyone. "No cops," she said fiercely. Ethan scoffed. "Are you insane? There's blood all over this damn place." Amina took a step forward, her voice dangerously low. "If you call the cops, you'll get all of us killed." Silence. Charlotte folded her arms. "What exactly aren't you telling us?" Amina hesitated. Then she looked directly at Zaid. "You paid for a virgin tonight, right?" she whispered. Zaid's jaw tightened. "Yes." "Well, so did someone else." The words dropped like a bomb. Ethan frowned. "What the hell does that mean?" Amina swallowed hard, then finally said the truth she had been holding back since she stepped into this hotel. "The girl you were supposed to meet, she wasn't just killed. She was hunted." Charlotte went stiff. "By who?" Amina inhaled sharply. "By the man who left this message." Zaid felt something unfamiliar claw at his stomach. Not fear, but the slow, creeping realization that he had just walked into something far bigger than himself. Ethan's phone buzzed in his hand. He glanced at the screen and went pale. "What is it?" Charlotte asked. Ethan's voice was hoarse. "Security just called. The front desk is trying to check on Zaid because—" He swallowed. "Because someone just left an envelope for him downstairs." Zaid turned sharply. "What kind of envelope?" Ethan met his eyes. They said it was covered in blood. The air inside the suite was thick with tension. Zaid's hands curled into fists. He had handled billion-dollar negotiations, political threats, and cutthroat business deals. But this was different. He turned to Ethan. "Where's the envelope now?" Ethan exhaled sharply. "They left it at the front desk." Zaid's gaze darkened. Someone had walked into this hotel, left a blood-covered envelope with his name on it, and walked away without a trace. Charlotte grabbed her coat. I don't know about you guys, but I'm not sitting around waiting to see what happens next. Amina suddenly stepped forward, grabbing Zaid's arm. You can't go down there. Zaid turned to her, his patience thinning. And why not? Amina's jaw clenched. Because whoever left that message didn't just kill the other girl. They're watching us. Silence. Zaid locked eyes with her, searching for any sign of deception. She was terrified, but not for herself, for him. That only made him more determined. Without another word, he grabbed his coat and strode toward the door. Ethan cursed under his breath. Damn it, Zaid! Stay here, Zaid commanded without looking back. If something happens, don't wait for me. Charlotte scoffed. You think I'm going to sit here and wait for a horror movie to unfold? Hell no, I'm coming. Ethan let out a dry laugh. Well, if you two are going, I might as well tag along. No way I'm letting you get all the fun. Amina grabbed Zaid's wrist again, this time desperately. Listen to me. If you take that envelope, you're accepting his game. That's what he wants. Zaid slowly pried her fingers away. I don't play games, Amina. I win them. And with that, he walked out. The moment they stepped into the high-ceilinged lobby, Zaid knew something was wrong. The concierge was too tense. The security guards were too stiff. People in power had a way of reading a room, and right now, this room was hiding something. Mr. Al-Rashid, the concierge said, voice tight. He gestured toward the counter, and there it was. A black envelope, sitting neatly on the marble surface, the edges soaked in red. Zaid stepped forward. Sir, one of the security guards said, shifting nervously. We haven't touched it. Zaid picked it up. Ethan muttered, Oh, that's smart. Just grab it barehanded. Leave your fingerprints all over a potential crime scene. Zaid ignored him and flipped the envelope over. No return address, no name, only his initials, ZR. A beat of silence. Then slowly he tore the flap open. A single Polaroid slid out. It hit the counter, face up. Charlotte was the first to react. She gasped. Ethan swore under his breath. Zaid's pulse slowed. The photo showed the woman he was supposed to meet tonight. Her throat slashed. Her body positioned on a bed, this very hotel's bed, and scrawled on her stomach in blood was another message. Now she's yours. The world felt like it stopped. Then Amina's phone rang. She pulled it out, stared at the screen, and went pale. What? Charlotte asked. Amina's voice barely came out. It's coming from the dead girl's phone. Amina's hand trembled as the phone rang. The name flashing on the screen made Charlotte take a step back. Ethan clenched his jaw. The dead girl was calling. Zaid didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in power, control, fear. And right now, someone was using all three against him. Amina hesitated, staring at the screen like it might explode in her hands. Zaid grabbed the phone from her and answered. Who is this? Silence. Then, a distorted voice, low and taunting. You're late, Zaid. Zaid's grip on the phone tightened. His voice was steady, unreadable. Who are you? A slow chuckle. You already know. Charlotte shivered. Jesus, this is... Zaid ignored her. What do you want? The voice hummed. You took something that wasn't yours. Zaid's mind raced. The girl? The voice clicked its tongue. No, Zaid. Her choice. Zaid glanced at Amina, who stood frozen, her breathing shallow. She knew something. You killed her, Zaid said. It wasn't a question. The voice didn't deny it. She belonged to me. Ethan took a step closer. What the hell is he talking about? Amina whispered. She was being sold to someone else. A heavy silence. Charlotte went pale. Wait. Are you saying... Amina swallowed hard. She didn't want to go with him, so she chose Zaid. The voice on the phone hissed. And now you will pay for her mistake. Zaid's patience snapped. You're nothing but a coward hiding behind phone calls. You think I'm afraid of you? The voice laughed, louder this time, amused. Oh, Zaid, I don't need you to be afraid. A pause. Then, I just need you to run. And then, boom! The hotel lights shut off. Screams erupted in the lobby. Zaid turned sharply, eyes adjusting to the darkness. Security guards were running. Hotel guests were panicking. And through the chaos, Zaid saw it. A figure standing in the distance, watching him. A dark hood covering their face. A gloved hand raising a single finger to their lips. Shh. Then, they disappeared. Zaid, move! Ethan shouted. A gunshot rang out. Glass shattered near Zaid's head. He ducked, adrenaline surging. Go! 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 Charlotte yelled, grabbing Amina's arm and pulling her toward the emergency exit. Security scrambled, trying to locate the shooter. Another gunshot. A chandelier crashed to the floor, sparks flying. Zaid's mind was calculating, dissecting every angle. This wasn't just a warning. This was a hunt. He turned sharply, pushing Amina ahead of him. We need to get out of here, now! Ethan cursed under his breath as he led the way, shoving people aside. Who the hell is this guy? Someone who doesn't miss twice, Zaid muttered. They burst into the emergency stairwell, their footsteps echoing as they ran. Where are we going? Charlotte panted. To my car, Zaid said. I have a safe house. Amina hesitated. No, that's the first place they'll look. Zaid turned to her, sharp and demanding. Then where do we go? Amina hesitated. Then, I know someone. But we have to trust her. Zaid didn't trust anyone. But right now, he was out of options. Sirens blared outside. Police. Too late. He exhaled sharply. Fine. Lead the way. Amina nodded. But as they reached the bottom floor, she grabbed his arm and looked into his eyes. They won't stop, she whispered. Zaid clenched his jaw. Neither will I. And with that, they disappeared into the Los Angeles night. And there it was, a black envelope, sitting neatly on the marble surface, the edges soaked in red. Zaid stepped forward. Sir, one of the security guards said, shifting nervously. We haven't touched it. Zaid picked it up. Ethan muttered, Oh, that's smart. Just grab it barehanded. Leave your fingerprints all over a potential crime scene. Zaid ignored him and flipped the envelope over. No return address, no name, only his initials. ZR. A beat of silence. Then slowly, he tore the flap open. A single Polaroid slid out. It hit the counter, face up. Charlotte was the first to react. She gasped. Ethan swore under his breath. Zaid's pulse slowed. The photo showed the woman he was supposed to meet tonight, her throat slashed, her body positioned on a bed, this very hotel's bed, and scrawled on her stomach in blood was another message. Now she's yours. The world felt like it stopped. Then, Amina's phone rang. She pulled it out, stared at the screen, and went pale. "What?" Charlotte asked. Amina's voice barely came out. "It's coming from the dead girl's phone." Zaid's black SUV tore through the streets of Los Angeles, weaving between late-night traffic, the city lights blurring past. Amina sat beside him, her breath uneven, hands gripping the seat. In the back, Ethan kept checking behind them, his fingers hovering near the gun tucked inside his jacket. Charlotte was beside him, her phone screen illuminating her face as she tried to track any news of the shooting. "They'll be looking for us," Ethan muttered. "We need to switch cars." Zaid didn't respond. His focus was on the road, but his mind was on the man who had called, the one who had left a blood-stained message, the one who had killed a girl just to send a warning. Charlotte's phone buzzed. She answered immediately. "Tell me you've got something." A muffled voice on the other end spoke rapidly. Charlotte's expression darkened. "Yeah. Okay. Send me the address." She hung up and looked at Zaid. "A media leak just hit. The cops are saying the attack at the hotel was a targeted incident. They're not calling it a random shooting." Ethan scoffed. "Of course not. They know exactly who they were after." Zaid turned sharply. "Amina, where are we going?" Amina hesitated. "A woman I know. She's safe." Zaid wasn't convinced. "That's not an answer." Amina turned to face him fully. "You want an answer? Fine. She's a journalist. She knows about the underground market where girls are sold to men like—" She stopped herself, biting her lip. The air inside the car grew thick. Zaid exhaled, his grip on the steering wheel tightening. "I don't buy people." Amina didn't look away. "But you bought her." Silence. Ethan cleared his throat. "I hate to interrupt this deep moral debate, but if this lady you know is a journalist, how the hell do we know she won't sell us out?" Amina turned to Charlotte. "You know her." Charlotte frowned. "Who?" Amina hesitated. "Lena Monroe." Charlotte's eyes widened. "You've got to be kidding me." Ethan groaned. "Who the hell is Lena Monroe?" Charlotte rubbed her temple. "She's an investigative journalist. Big name. She's written exposés on human trafficking, corruption, and underground markets." She turned to Amina. "You trust her?" Amina's voice was firm. "I do." Zaid wasn't convinced. "And you think she'll help us?" Amina met his eyes. "She has to." Zaid exhaled sharply. "Where is she?" Charlotte tapped her phone. "Sending you the address now. It's a loft in downtown L.A." Zaid turned the wheel, heading toward the new location. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to an old industrial building with high windows and a rooftop garden, the kind of place where people with money went to feel artistic. Zaid killed the engine. "Ethan, stay in the car. Watch for anything unusual." Ethan nodded, adjusting his gun. "Be careful in there." Charlotte and Amina led the way inside. The loft smelled like coffee and ink. Walls were covered in bulletin boards, filled with names, maps, and red string connecting them all. A woman stood in the center of the room, arms crossed. Lena Monroe. Late 30s, sharp features, dark hair pulled into a tight bun. The kind of woman who had seen too much and trusted too little. She studied them. "You brought the billionaire." Zaid raised an eyebrow. "You knew we were coming." Lena scoffed. "I know everything before it happens. That's why I'm still alive." Amina stepped forward. "Lena, we need help." Lena glanced at Zaid. You sure about that? Amina's jaw tightened. Someone's hunting us. Lena exhaled. Yeah, I know. Zaid's patience was running out. Then tell me who he is. Lena turned to the wall, plucking a Polaroid from the board. She tossed it on the table in front of them. Zaid looked down. His stomach tightened. A photo of the man from the hotel lobby, the one who had been watching him, the one who had disappeared. Lena's voice was calm, but deadly. His name is Malik ibn Rahim. Amina's breath hitched. Charlotte whispered, Who the hell is he? Lena looked at Zaid. He's the man who owns the girls before they're sold. Silence. Then Lena leaned forward. And he's not after Amina. Zaid felt the weight of her next words before she even spoke them. He's after you. Zaid's entire body tensed. He was used to being the one in control, the one people feared, respected, or envied. But now, for the first time in years, he felt something he hadn't in a long time. A target on his back. Charlotte stepped closer to the table, staring at the Polaroid of Malik ibn Rahim, the man who had left the blood-stained message. You're telling me this guy hunts girls, sells them, and now he's coming for Zaid? Lena didn't blink. Not coming for him, claiming him. Amina paled. What does that mean? Lena exhaled sharply and walked to the far wall, pulling out a thick folder. She tossed it onto the table. Newspaper clippings, bank statements, crime reports, documents filled with missing women, whispered deals, and the names of powerful men. She tapped one page. Zaid's name was on it. Ethan let out a low whistle. Well, that's not good. Zaid's jaw clenched. I don't do business with traffickers. Lena raised an eyebrow. No, but your associates do. Charlotte skimmed the page and frowned. Zaid, you have investments in over 100 companies worldwide. I'm guessing you don't personally vet every partner? Zaid stayed silent. Lena crossed her arms. 5 years ago, you backed a security firm called Al-Asmar Holdings. Amina's breath hitched. I know that name. Lena nodded. You should. They don't do security. They do human trade. The words hit like a hammer. Zaid's mind worked fast. He had bought into a company that was funding a human trafficking ring. His signature was on deals that, unknowingly, had fueled the same system that had put Amina and hundreds of others in danger. No, it wasn't possible. Zaid's voice was tight. I didn't know. Lena's expression was unreadable. Maybe, but Malik doesn't care. In his mind, you're in his world now. You paid for one of his girls, even if she wasn't his to sell. You've inserted yourself into his business. That makes you his problem. And in his world, there's only one way to handle problems. Amina's voice was quiet. Eliminate them. Silence filled the room. Ethan sat back, shaking his head. All right, let's think. Amina was supposed to be sold to someone else, right? But she chose Zaid instead. That means Malik lost money. Lena nodded. And Malik doesn't lose. Charlotte rubbed her temples. So what does he want? Money? A trade? Lena exhaled. No, he wants retribution. He wants to send a message to anyone who might think they can buy something from him without his permission. And trust me, his messages are always written in blood. Amina looked at Zaid. We need to leave the city. Zaid didn't move. No. Charlotte scoffed. No? You just heard her. This guy isn't playing games, Zaid. Zaid's voice was cold, controlled. I don't run. Ethan muttered. Of course you don't. Zaid turned to Lena. Where is Malik? Lena narrowed her eyes. Why? Zaid straightened. Because I don't wait for threats to come to me. I end them first. Amina grabbed his arm. No, you don't know what you're dealing with. Zaid looked down at her, his voice steady. Neither does he. Lena studied him, then sighed. There's a private club in the hills. It's not on any map, but it's where Malik meets his buyers. That's where he'll be. Charlotte's eyes widened. Wait, you're not seriously thinking of walking into that place? Zaid turned to Ethan. Get us a new car, something untraceable. Ethan cursed under his breath but nodded. Fine, but if we die, I'm haunting your penthouse. Zaid turned to Amina. I need you to stay with Lena. Amina's expression hardened. No. Zaid frowned. Amina, no, she repeated, stepping closer. You don't know Malik, but I do. You think this is just business for him? It's not. It's personal. And you walking in there alone? He'll rip you apart. Zaid's gaze didn't waver. Then what do you suggest? Amina took a breath. We don't fight him. Zaid's patience thinned. I don't run. Amina shook her head. We don't run. We outplay him. Lena's eyes flickered with curiosity. What are you thinking? Amina turned to Zaid. You want to end this? You need to play by his rules. Zaid arched a brow. And what does that mean? Amina exhaled slowly. It means you're going to have to let him think he's already won. Zaid walked into the club like he owned it. Amina was beside him, dressed in a way that made her look more like an offering than a threat. Malik sat in a velvet chair at the center of the room, watching them with a slow, satisfied smile. You finally understand, Malik murmured, sipping his drink. You don't win in my world, Zaid. You submit. Zaid smirked. Or I rewrite the rules. Malik's expression barely changed. But in the next second, gunfire erupted. Charlotte and Ethan moved fast, taking out the guards in the shadows. Amina spun away, grabbing a hidden blade and slashing a man's throat before he could react. Malik stood, but Zaid was faster. A single gunshot rang through the club, Zaid's bullet tearing through Malik's knee, dropping him to the floor. Zaid walked over him, calm, unshaken. You hunt women. You think fear is power, Zaid said coldly. But you made one mistake. Malik coughed, blood pooling beneath him. And what's that? Zaid crouched beside him, pressing the barrel of his gun against Malik's forehead. You came after me. One final shot. Malik fell silent forever. The bodies were gone. The club was nothing but smoke and empty glasses. Amina stood near the exit, watching Zaid. It's over. Zaid exhaled. Not yet. She frowned. What do you mean? Zaid turned to her, his voice calm. You think I won? She hesitated. Didn't you? Zaid glanced at his phone. A new message. No name, no number, just 2 words. Round 2. Zaid clenched his jaw. This wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. What did you think of this shocking ending? Will Zaid ever be free, or has he stepped into something bigger than he imagined? Comment below. If you loved this story, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and turn on notifications. More thrilling stories are on the way.